And finally, Garen, onto the cricket. I mean, by the time this video is published, the England side will be sort of well into their reply of 474 the Proteas have set for the hosts. But a very different performance from the Proteas compared to the first test. What do you think that has come down to? Is it purely the personnel changes, Faf du Plessis coming back, dropping Germany? Is it, just a different pitch, different conditions? What do you put it down to?
I think a little bit of everything. To be quite honest, you know, you wouldn't have thought Kagiso Rabada missing out would be a good thing, and certainly let the Proteas play any better than they did at Lords. But you know, with Faf coming back, his leadership, his natural leadership skills, that certainly boosted the team. You know, I'm sure the post Lords defeat. Camaraderie that went on, the team meetings, speaking honestly from the heart and what went wrong, addressing those issues, certainly would have gelled the team. Perhaps England let their guard down slightly as well after their fairly easy win at Lords in the first test. So, you know, I think all those things sort of like added together. The fact we have obviously played a lot better than we did in the first test as well. So, you know, long may that continue. Hopefully today is the final day and we can bowl them out before they reach that target. But again, you know, the England openers are struggling. It looks like Philander and Morkel and co have got their number. I wouldn't be surprised if they lost some early wickets. Joe Root's going to be a big wicket as well to get. You know, he's obviously a top-class batsman and a couple of others down their order as well. But I think the Proteas will be confident of squaring the series after this. You know, four-match series always has the potential to end 2-2. You know, 1-1 after two tests would be, I think, a fair reflection of the way the two matches have gone. But, you know, it's not over until that final wicket is taken. And the Proteas bowling attack isn't a vintage attack. I think Robert would agree. There are certainly players we've had in the past seasons that have been on paper and historically better test players. But this team is sort of still fairly young. They're still building. And I think there's a bright future for a number of those bowlers in the attack. You mentioned JP Duminy losing his position this test as well. You know, he's obviously going to go away and think about his performances, maybe get some runs at the domestic level after the series. Assuming he doesn't come back, it'll be very difficult to change a winning team. I think if they did win this test. So, you know, the slight changing of the guard. But you know, cricket is a strange game. Anything can happen. A lot depends, as you say, on the pitch, on the conditions, on the opposition, home or away. So, you know, I'm confident we'll certainly get those 10 wickets we require in this test to square the series.
And Rob, some of those changes in like sort of key positions, obviously the captaincy, but then a new opening pair for the Proteas. And what do you make of Morris's transition to the 5-day format?
Well, I was very pleased that structurally they went the way they did for this test match. It's no coincidence that well, touch wood, they're doing well in the test match. We assume that South Africa are going to, you know, go on to a levelling victory, and they've played 200% better than they did in the first test at Lords. So you know. Morris coming in was a little bit of a tricky one because we know that the South African batting depth is not what it used to be. That you know, losing your Smiths and your Callises and people like that was a massive void to fill. The first time in many years of going on England tours that they haven't had those real hardcore of really seasoned, heavy scoring batsmen, the sort of guys who are capable of making double centuries, not just centuries. And as we've seen in this series, you know, it's been a bit of a struggle for South African batsmen to even get centuries. Never mind, you know the really big ones. But they went back on that 7 batsman policy that they used to like, and went down to 6 by bringing Quinton de Kock a little bit further up the order for this test match. Whether number 4 is really his ideal position, I don't know. But it was brave of them to bring in the extra bowler because it was a statement of intent. You know, you've got to do the 20 wickets job to win a test match, and they were prepared to basically shelve a batsman who ended up being, I suppose, really well. De Bruyne and Duminy basically went out, bringing in Morris was an inspired move because it took their attack back up to 5 legitimate bowlers, if you like, and that gave them it means that you can rotate your fast bowlers a lot better. They come in fresher for different spells. If somebody does a little sort of hamstring strain or something, at least you know that there's still a 4-man attack rather than a 3-man attack. And so some good signs. I think Morris was a little bit inconsistent at first, but then came roaring back to pretty much mop up the England tail, and he made a few runs too.
Yeah, handy with the bat, as was Philander.
And Philander too. Philander at 7, I'm very comfortable with that. So a lot of people think, you know, Is he really a 7? I think a lot of us have seen enough of him in domestic cricket over the years to know that he can hold down that position. So I like the way the team is evolving. I think that, long may it last. I'd like them to stick with this quite brave formula of just having 6 batsmen and then having a 7 and 8, 2 sort of bowling all-rounders who kind of, cover all bases. That may well be the way to go.
And you think Hashim possibly opening in the next test, or is he?
Probably not. I think in Test match cricket, you need him too much in that sort of upper middle order. I wouldn't think so. I think there's still. I think Kuhn needs to be given a little bit of a run. I think maybe at least one more test. He hasn't shone in this series so far. He did get that pretty good 34, and he's had a couple of instances where he's been sort of slightly strangled out. I think 2 tests is not quite enough to blood a guy. I'd like to see him play at least one more test. Perhaps if he fails at the Oval in Test 3, then you start looking at possibly tweaking things. Bavuma is another one who I think technically has the ability to become an opening batsman if you do decide to reshape a middle order batsman into an opener. So that'll be another option to explore. I would think that Hashim will stick to a position at sort of first or second drop.
Okay. All right, gents, thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.